Thank you, everyone, for the support and being here. So I've had three lives, in the music industry. One was as a drummer, and that started when I was a teenager. And then that transitioned to the business side of things. And so in 1990, I started a full-time A&R job at Warner Brothers Records. And that continued for about 15 years. As I moved from there to Geffen Records, to Columbia Records, and I was fortunate to have great teachers at all those labels and mentors, and got to work with a lot of great artists. And at one point, while I was still at Warner Brothers, a manager and an artist came to me and they said, with your artists at Warner Brothers, you know a ton of musicians and you have been able to place musicians, in the Red Hot Chili Peppers and Morrissey and all kinds of other acts. Could somebody hire you outside of Warner Brothers to do that? So I went back to my label, asked them, and I said, as long as you do it on your own time, doesn't interfere with your A&R work at Warner Brothers. So I helped a completely unknown artist on a weekend here in Los Angeles, and she didn't stay unknown for long. It was Alanis Morissette. And so that was the first band that I actually assembled. And, to this day, I've managed to stay friends with the people in the band like Taylor Hawkins and Jesse Tobias and Nick Lashley and Chris Chaney. And so that started something on the outside. And then without really trying to, people got in touch with me and they said, hey, we have a band at this label. And I had been keeping a database for many, many years. And so I started building on that. And over 15 years, people just got in touch with me and, had projects that needed help. And so I believe the list now of musicians is well over 10,000. And I'd say 90% of those musicians are based in Los Angeles, where I am. But I do keep lists of people in Chicago and New York and places like that. So after putting together bands and things, it started to expand, and I went to work for American Idol, helping them with a lot of their tours, with bands, and, I've kept in touch with people like Chris Daughtry and Adam Lambert and on and on. So I did maybe 15 American Idol tours and television shows, movies, things like that, where we place people. And then I was fortunate to start teaching at different colleges around here. So in that time, I've been teaching full-time at MI, except they're closed, of course, during the pandemic, and Musicians Institute. UCLA Extension did an A&R class there, USC and Citrus College and Los Angeles College of Music. And so those places were great sources for adding to my list. And I would hear people play for me at those colleges, and then I would add them to a profile, and then I would refer them. And that accounted for a lot of great discoveries with musicians. If you ever watch, say, The Voice, Justin Derrico, and I saw one of my former mentors. I counseled a guy named Breezy Lovejoy when I was at MI, and now saw him on Sunday as Anderson .Paak. So anyway, it's been a great learning experience, and we exchange knowledge, both of us, back and forth, and then I pass that on to you guys and students and things like that. Questions like, hey, how did you get this audition? What did you do at this audition that you think really helped you? Or what's your social media of choice at the moment? So I assume that I'll return at some point to Musicians Institute when they rejoin, and I do seminars there and classes there and share my knowledge. If anybody is interested in seeing opportunities, the ones where the artist allows it, I do post them on my social media. And there's been just a fraction of the normal amount during the COVID time. But if you want to see the opportunities that I have, you can access Instagram, and it's Barry_Squire on Instagram. And I post things there, as well as Facebook. It's just under Barry Squire. And so I do post things as I get them, and then I just kind of spread the word. Sometimes the artist doesn't want me to pass on their name, and I have to sign something called an NDA agreement, non-disclosure agreement, and that's not something I can share. Or sometimes we start by keeping the artist name anonymous, and then, as in the case of Stone Temple Pilots, they allow me to, actually publicize it more. So I do post the things there, and before I forget, I want to mention, in case anybody out there knows somebody, these are the things I'm working on this week. The first one is for girl musicians between the ages of 17 and 25. This is for a new band that's being formed with the help of producers and managers. Sony is, one of the people behind it. And so they will build a band from the ground up. They're looking for girls that are rockers. They don't want, the typical singer-songwriter or hip-hop people. Their inspiration is bands like the Runaways or Joan Jett or the Go-Go's, the Pandoras, L7, Babes in Toyland. And so we had our first audition on Saturday, which I go to great lengths to make sure that they're COVID safe. When people come to the auditions, they wait in their car. We text them when it's time to come in. They come in one at a time, and we have a large sound stage where people are separated by, at least 15 feet. They come in, play 2 cover tunes. So there will be another one of those coming up, and we're still looking for bass, drums, girl lead singer, of course, and guitar. It's for all girls, and it'll be eventually a TV project and recording project and that type of thing. The second one I'm working on is for a heavy band that I am not able at this point to disclose the name, but they're very, very credible in the world of, say, people that listen to Seven Dust or Five Finger Death Punch or the heavier bands. They call themselves the heavier side of active rock. So if that gives you any clue, so they are looking for a male rock vocalist. And like many other bands, what they would like to find is somebody that can sing that kind of music really well, and also has an image that's compatible with the band. So if you want to see what kind of image that is, look up some of those bands. Korn is another one that, might be a point of reference. And so you can go and see those bands. That's a hard one to find. They're not looking for a screamo singer. They're not looking for a classic rock singer. They're not looking for anything dated. It's very much, just the heavier side of rock music. So that one is open. And then I have a third one that's just for people in Los Angeles, which is also for girls, where they will hire you to play in an all-girl band with a singer-songwriter. And that is something for girls that are more teenage girls, because they're trying to match it with the artist who's 18. So all of those are posted, how to respond to them, what to do. Or if you want to refer anybody, go to one of those social media platforms. There's also my postings go up at USC and their network, and at MI and their network. So suggestions are welcome, and if anybody wants to submit something, remind me later and I will tell you how to do that. So
Yeah, I
anyway,
think there's a few comments too. So maybe what we'll do is like we'll take in some information from you and just send it out to them. So one thing, like if anybody wants this information to be sent out to them, including the social media handles and stuff, just comment your email addresses here, and we'll just manage to send it after we finish this discussion.
okay.
That's those are great opportunities. It sounds like I'm like so yeah. I'm sure like there's quite a few people who would want to submit to those. So yeah, thank you. And then yeah, please continue. I just wanted, because it was piling up. Like I just wanted to let people know that they could get this information if they wanted.
Okay. So anyway, I think maybe I could spend a few minutes and I'll tell you the questions I get asked the most at my schools and seminars and consults and things like that, that I think you guys should know. And
That's awesome. Yeah, that'll be great.
so, probably the question I get asked the most is, how do I find out about tours? How do I find about bands that need musicians, recording artists that are replacing members, things like that. So, that is something that you have to kind of devote yourself to full time. And the average schedule of a full-time or successful musician kind of breaks down to this. And I've had thousands of conversations with musicians, and I've asked them, like, how did you get this job and things like that. A lot of musicians, if they can afford to, if they don't have to go to a day job, and most musicians do, it's basically they might practice in the morning, and then in the afternoon, they always set aside 2 to 3 hours for social media and networking. And so they will go on their computer later and they will research, and they'll go to certain sites where maybe, they're what I call a gossip site. Somebody might be leaving Bon Jovi, or that a band has replaced or will be looking, and so they, basically gather information on the computer, different sites, and then after that, they track those leads down, and you can do that. That's almost an entire class that I teach, on how to find managers and things like that. But you can be resourceful and try and do it on the internet. You can type in David Lee Roth manager, and then the managers are responsible for a lot of the people that audition, but it's not limited to the managers. If you can connect with a tour manager or anybody associated with the camp, that might help you. But you just have to be patient, gather information as you go through all of the listings and things. And former guest here, Rich Ezra, has a great resource for A&R, although the A&R people are not always responsible for who ends up in the band. And sometimes they're not even aware that there's a change. But Rich Ezra has a great guide called A&R Registry and some offshoots of it. But it's a matter of just being patient, finding the current manager. That's important. And then maybe sending an email to that manager and saying, I understand that David Lee Roth is looking for a guitar player, which is, a true story, but months and months ago. So he had a tour, eventually ended up with an amazing guitarist. If you guys want to hear a new and upcoming guitarist, his name is Jake Faun, Faun. And unfortunately, in the middle of touring and residencies and things like that, it all came to a screeching halt, like it did with many other bands. So anyway, you would spend part of your afternoon, at least 2 hours a day, and just network with other musicians. Reach out to people, chat, text. Hey, is it true that David Lee Roth is having guitar auditions this weekend? That kind of a thing. And then musicians usually go to happy hour because that's all they can afford. And then in the evening, they go out and they support other musicians. They hang with other musicians. They go to jam nights. They go to shows that are relevant in their area. And they just, get out there and they make friends. And, one thing I'll just address is that never sound desperate when you're looking for a job, because it's like any other employer. They want to feel like they're getting somebody valuable. And if you approach them like, hey, I'm going to get evicted, or, I'm going to get a divorce or something unless I get work, that's not what they want to hear. They want to feel like they're getting something valuable. So put everything in a positive light and say things like, I have some downtime, or I'm in between tours, or I've been working on a new practice book, or I am, just writing some original stuff, or I'm working on an EP. You have to make it appear as though you're, just that you have things going on. And so you'll see that if you do those things and you hang with musicians and build relationships, that over time, that's a great way to get referred to things. Unfortunately, people say to me, hey, is there one site where I can go and it will tell me that David Lee Roth is looking for a guitar player? And by the way, he is not. This is a year ago. So is there one place you can go and get this knowledge? And there's not. Unfortunately, there isn't any site, paid or unpaid or anything, where it's a very simple clearinghouse of opportunities. Craigslist is good, on a very, very indie level, and that kind of thing. But for the most part, there is no great site that you can go to on the internet that will tell you these opportunities. So you have to educate yourself and learn how to find these opportunities, follow up on them, and then that would lead to the next step, unless you have any questions, is like how to submit for those things. So I will move on to, if you do find out something is legit, or somebody, a local band, national band, says to you, okay, let's see your promo stuff. So this changes over time. When I was at Warner Brothers, the glam bands would send packages that blow up, with glitter and condoms and stuff like that. But, now every year or so, it changes your approach and you have to keep up on it. But it's a minimal amount of material that you submit. And so the formula is this. You would have your contact information. Of course, be sure and put your instrument as well, and whether or not you sing and things like that. But make sure you put your contact information, and make sure that even though it's rare, there are still people that call you on the phone. So people from offices and airports and things like that. So still include a phone number, and then right after your contact information, then you would have like just a couple paragraphs bio. Don't ever attach things like pictures or bios that people have to open or download into their phone. Just embed it all into the email. And then after 2 paragraphs of bio, simple things like that. And one phrase I have an issue with is share the stage with. Anybody can buy their way onto shows, with well-known people, but it doesn't mean you actually played with them. And then sometimes it comes back to hurt them. But the next thing after 2 paragraphs of bio is your social media links. And this is critical. This is how people will decide whether to hire you or not. And right now it goes in this order, and it does change all the time. So the links where they're going to look first are at YouTube. So if you don't already have a YouTube channel, make sure that you have one link that goes to a YouTube channel, and you should have 5 to 10 videos up there, primarily cover tunes. That's because people will reference that. if you are interested in, how to get your original material submitted, that's probably a whole other uh, live stream, because it's a lot of work and everything. People ask me all the time, they say, hey, can you tell my son or daughter, they want to be a recording artist, how to do that in a phone call or a Zoom or something. And the reality is, it's kind of like asking somebody, how do you become a lawyer? It's just, you have to dedicate yourself to it. So it's not a short conversation. But getting back to this, so what social media should you have? YouTube is important, 5 to 10 videos. If you have 20 or 30 or 40, it's too much. People are never going to look at them. They land on your YouTube channel and may watch 5 minutes worth of videos. That would be generous. I've been around some major people, and they move so quickly through them. They look at how you look and play, and how you play these cover tunes or sing the cover tunes, and then they move on. The frustrating thing for you at the other end of the internet is that you may never know that you were considered for a big tour, because they drop in on your YouTube page, look at you, and then move on. If you're not what they're looking for, you'll never know that you were up for a Justin Timberlake tour as a drummer or something of that nature. And so it's frustrating, but that's why you have to have your social media in such good order. And you don't need expensive videos. You don't need the helicopter following you at the beach. You need to just have good audio quality videos that can be placed in your home, mixed in with some maybe live shows if the audio quality is good. And when you finish a video, always make sure that you look and see what's going on in the background. People have sent me videos where there's, bongs and whiskey and crack pipes and all kinds of things that they didn't notice. Or one guy was shredding out on his back porch, and he didn't realize that his dog had just done some nasty stuff on the lawn. That was in his video. And the dog ran back in the house, and I thought, I don't know, did this guy want me to see this? Or anyway, so always look at your videos and make sure the audio is good, and see what's going on in the background. Nothing that's going to embarrass you. You don't want people saying, wow, you barely have heat in your house. So anyway, that's Instagram would be the next one after YouTube. And Instagram is moving quickly, to overtake YouTube now that you can add more videos with a little bit longer time. So again, that's a mix of, the videos mixed in with photos. If you want to see a couple good Instagram examples, you can check out the pages for Josh Freese, drummer, and Stephen Perkins. Even though Stephen Perkins, drummer of Jane's Addiction, even though they're very successful at their instruments, they really keep working at social media. And Josh puts things up all the time and keeps, engaged with his followers and things like that. So those are two good examples of people, I think, that they post every 2 or 3 days. It's not too much. Sometimes it's videos, sometimes it's pictures, but those are 2 points of reference. Facebook has become a distant third, and now the emerging one that I really have not connected with is, musicians that have adopted TikTok. So we'll see. And then a year from now, there may be other ones and new ones. I would avoid things, where they charge you a fee to get you session work, or they say that you join, to have access to inside information. Those never really turn out. So anyway, put those things, and then when you're submitting, right after that, you would have, information like whether you sing or not, your age, what city that you live in. Make sure all of that is there. And then have a photo, a current photo. That's really, really important, because I can't tell you how many times I've had auditions and people have the picture of the guy and they're going, is that the same guy? You know, is it, I can't believe it. Pictures are a little misleading. You know, sometimes artists are, you know, just shocked to see that it doesn't match the picture. It's kind of like a dating service. So
Yeah, I was going to say that. I was
right,
like, these are all parallels to dating.
right. So make sure it's a current photo. Plus, you don't want to date yourself either, you know, of having like a hairy chest with a black leather vest over it. So, you know, and long hair, it people will judge you by it. And then that's basically what you should send. And then you just kind of wait and see if somebody bites, so to speak. And you have to be able to understand that this becomes a life for you. And you can't take it personal if somebody doesn't respond to you, because most likely you'll never hear another thing. And too many musicians, it causes them to be depressed because, well, I sent something in, I didn't hear anything back, or I went to the audition, I didn't get the job. And it's all relevant. What musicians should know is that there is a lot of stuff that goes on with auditions and castings and things like that that you may never be aware of. And it may not have anything to do with your musical ability or your image or something like that. It may be that the band broke up. It may be that somebody got back together with the band. I had one artist, you know, where they broke up in the middle of a tour. It was a boyfriend, girlfriend, and they had auditions, and everybody kind of looked like the boyfriend. This girl was having auditions. But in the end, he apologized and rejoined the band, but they didn't say anything to all these people that are sitting at home thinking I could have learned that better. Sometimes there's issues with the label. Sometimes there's issues with the money. And sometimes they just don't respond, you know, they don't feel like it's a good match. There may be people that submit themselves to opportunities over and over again, and everybody dislikes how they look or things like that. But then all of a sudden on audition number 10, they react. A good example of that is if anybody's familiar with a guitarist named John Five. I know him as John Lowry, and many, many years ago he came to a few auditions, and he would come looking like a rock star. There was glitter, there was high-heeled shoes, there was boas and everything, and people would like hate him. But then for everyone where they were shocked or they thought it was too much, then he'd go to one and suddenly, you know, now he's, yeah, you know, Rob Zombie wants him, or Marilyn Manson wants him, or even David Lee Roth at one point, and Katie Lang of all people. So there is, you know, you can't be depressed about these things. So just assume that's a way of life, that you're going to be applying for things, and don't be depressed about it if you don't hear back or if you don't get the job. Do what really professional musicians do, is they go home and they start on the next one, or they start networking again. And if you do that, you'll find that at least you can be at peace with yourself, because you know that you do try and you are diligent about following up on things and you prepared well. And so that's how you would send things in. Unless you want to take any questions right now, I'll move on.
Yeah. So a few things I have from your last description. There were a few questions, follow-up questions I had, but there are some questions in the audience too. We'll get to them right after. So one of the things with socials, like if you're a new artist, and it's my curiosity, if you're a new artist, how do you get past that, the numbers that the social bring up front, like the views or the likes or the followers, like those numbers are very upfront. So they're not, so even though like I'm going to look for somebody that like, okay, I'm looking for the music, but these things just show up. Like, how do you avoid or get past that? To me, that seems like something that, even though I'm not like, if I'm a band trying to hire a guitarist and I go to their socials, uh, I don't want to look at those numbers. I think they're probably meaningless for a new artist, but they're right there. Like, do you think that affects positively, negatively? Has that ever been a concern with the kind of musicians you've been booking?
Okay, just kind of rephrase the question because it got distorted for a
Uh,
little bit.
yeah, like those numbers, like the viewing numbers, the followers numbers, like in streams, like the number of plays. Do these factor into, like, have you seen they factored into decisions of the people that you've recommended?
Nobody really looks at those numbers.
That's okay. That's great. It was yeah, that's great. Thank you.
Right, because I think that in the music world that people may know, it's not just in music, but in acting and YouTube and influencers and everything else, that if you work at it, you can manipulate those numbers. And there's a good HBO documentary this month called Fake Famous. And
Yeah, it was great.
you can pay to inflate those numbers. It's been that way for many years. As an A&R person, we would follow leads many, many years ago. And then you found that you could pay to have algorithms that would create numbers for you and inflate the numbers. So I think that people understand that it's not necessarily true. I mean, if somebody did have 5,000 views or, 2 million or something like that, you could feel like you could watch the videos or listen to the material and you could say, yeah, I understand, this really is a star. But that's self-explanatory. But a lot of people have more money than talent, and they, go out and hire people, and that's all they do is they inflate those numbers.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that was like, because I've also watched Fake Fans, but prior to that, just knowing how social media works and so many instruments to inflate those numbers and everything, it's good to know, like from an industry point of view, like people actually like disregard those numbers, because that is kind of crucial, like to not have those and to just look at the talent purely rather than like having those. And one other question, I'll take some audience questions like real quick. Sean Harwitz, I hope I'm pronouncing your name right. He's worked with you in the past. He's commenting a lot, and he's saying, I've had a great time working with Barry several times, and he wanted to know about the new opportunities you mentioned, but we'll send him the emails. And so he just dropped and say hi, and he's been
Hey,
commenting.
Sean, what's up?
And Logan Shepard. Hey, Logan. Yes, like, hey, Barry, it's Logan. Been practicing really hard. Is it possible to arrange another consultation with you soon? So.
Oh, yeah. Now, if you guys want to see somebody that I think has tasteful social media, check out Logan's stuff, because he's got the balance right. He doesn't post too much. But when there is a video, it really is captivating, because he manages to collaborate with other musicians in his age demographic in here in Canada and all over the place. And so the audio is always good. The song selections are good. And so, outside of just being, a strong drummer, he's an example of somebody that, keeps his image together. That's important. And so, check out Logan Shepard's stuff. Oh, before I forget, with going back just for a minute to the YouTube, is that it's not a good idea to post YouTube videos that are 5 years or more older, because that may date you. And for people that are, looking at, trying to match up a certain age, and it goes both ways. So once I helped a band called Social Distortion, and they said, we don't want any young kids in the band because we want people that know who these British punk bands and but they're looking for people they're compatible with, or TV show. If you put really dated YouTube videos up there, back when you were in high school and things like that, it's not going to help you. So you're better off to do what we call pruning when it comes to Instagram, YouTube, places like that, and to monthly, from time to time, just go through and take out the ones that are not effective or will date you or, have long since served their use. But anyway, let's get back to your questions. So Logan checked in, and yeah, Logan is a very up and coming drummer.
Yeah, and he wanted to know if it's possible to book another consultation with you. That was his question.
Yeah, people don't realize it, but Logan Shepard's dad is a great guitarist too, and for to keep in the game, I have a cover band, and Pete Shepard has come and played, and we were lucky last time that Logan and his dad came and sat in with us. So you guys know how to find me.
Thanks. Shout out to Logan. Yeah, I think you were going to move on to auditions, but one more thing ahead is I wanted to mention something is in addition to the social media and submitting, what we have seen, and I don't know what your opinion on this is because it's a new emerging media. We have frequent live streams of new musicians and established musicians on over here, and in some of those, and I have attended quite a few just because, and in some of them we've seen music industry people come in, and some interesting things happen on the chat over here, where people are if they're watching a live stream, they're like, oh, we want to look at your sync licenses. How do you, with that medium, I guess it's not a strategy for a musician, but do you think, what do you have, because you're an established voice in the industry, what are your feelings about that?
Oh, I think it's great. So I, all day long, not all day, but I spend a lot of time watching videos that pop up on Instagram and YouTube and links, that people send me and things like that. And so as long as the videos are well done, and again, it's not about the money. You do not need to spend a lot of money, but just people with a cell phone or Zoom cameras, or a home camera, a GoPro or something like that. That's up in a room, or if you have a friend that's can hold the camera stable, that might work. Make sure you get the right balance of audio to video. Here's the thing that I wish would happen is that as I watch these videos, you say, man, this guy is a great singer, or he's a great guitar player, but there's no name, no way to contact them. So you see somebody that might be perfect for a TV show or a job or something like that, and I can't figure out who it is. It's part of a multi Instagram page, and it doesn't have their name always. So make sure that if you are inserting videos here and there in TikTok and Instagram and places like that, that you have an email, you have a name and things like that. People might try and find you, And so you become like a detective and, starting with like, okay, now I got the person's name. So let's see which um, Aaron Jones it is on the internet. There's 17 of them. So make sure you put all the right information.
Yeah, and hopefully, I guess like it'll sound like a plug, but I'll do it because I think there's genuine value in that. That's a gap that we have been fulfilling over the past year and year and a half. Is when you see like the videos of the showcase sessions that we have been doing, people come in, they can actually then go ahead and contact the artists and everything, and it's done from their profiles and stuff. So it's very easy to like for the discovery to happen and it to go to a full circle and like to just get in touch with the artist and see their other work. We're collecting all of that in a single spot. We'll talk. I will definitely show you a little bit more on that. I don't know if you've got a chance to do it before, but we'll talk uh, after the call, and
Okay.
I'll show you. That's cool. So you were going to move on to the auditioning part.
Yeah, I think I'll touch on this while we still have a few minutes. And basically, assuming now you have found out about an audition, and then second step, you've submitted material for it, and, submit it however you can. I've had servers in restaurants, talk to me, and it comes in all places, Uh, one guy that got a lot of auditions was a tattoo artist, and he was doing the tattoos for some hard rock bands, and he seemed to always know about them. So anyway, assuming that now you've been invited to go to the audition and you have a date to do that. So this is what you need to know. And, I've been doing this for so many years with these auditions, and these are like the key things that you would need to know. And I can pass on to you. Number one is if they offer you a time, always take the earlier time. It's an old musician's myth that if you play at the end of the audition, that you are more likely to stay in the memory of the people auditioning you. And that makes sense. However, uh, auditions are always disorganized unless I'm doing them. And anyway, what happens is that you may not get to play. They cut the songs, they run out of time, or the artists reach what I call burnout, where you could be playing in front of them, but they've heard, 26 shredders, and they're not about, nothing's registering anymore. I've seen that happen with some well-known people. So always take the earliest time possible. Everybody's in a good mood. They let you play the songs, usually that they ask you to learn. Later in the day, they just run out of time. So always take the earliest time possible. And really the biggest secret I can tell you is to overlearn the material, assuming that somebody has given you 2 cover songs to learn or 6 cover songs to learn. Then stop what you're doing and just learn and learn and learn those songs. You may get to the audition and they abandon, the other 2 songs or 3 songs, but you still have to learn them, and you just don't know. I did an audition for The Voice when they were getting ready to open a nightclub in Las Vegas, and the music director had people learn really 6 complicated songs, Bohemian Rhapsody and Band on the Run and all kinds of things, with time changes and everything else. And when the musician showed up there, he, was running late, and so he narrowed it down from 6 to 2. The problem is you don't know which 2. And so you have to really know the songs. Plus, it'll be less anxiety for you because you're comfortable and you don't need to worry about that. You'll be more confident and learn it note for note exactly as the record, because the artist will, and I've done a ton of pop artists where if you play it like the record, the artist equates that with enthusiasm for the band or the tour or whatever it may be, and they feel like, hey, this guy really went to the trouble of learning my material. If you hear in a song like there's 3 beats of rest, that doesn't mean that you show off your paradiddles. That means like 3 beats of rest. Somebody wanted those 3 beats of rest there when they were producing it, creating it, recording it, or whatever the case may be. So honor that. And it's really not the time to show off your chops, so to speak. It's more to replicate the record. That really is a secret that more people have gotten jobs that way, because they're replicating the record right down to getting guitar tones and things like that. And so the next thing is, research the artist and do a lot of research, find out where they live, what they're passionate about, what their next tours are, dates, influences, and then the most important thing is go on to their sites and see how they're dressed and what their image is like. So you don't show up and you look, you have the dog collar on, and that went out years ago. So, to see what they look like. And remember, it's not exactly the major artists or, artists that have professional photographers will benefit, but look, that may not be how they're going to be dressed at the audition. Look and see how their friends are dressed and the image of their friends, and then go like that. Plus, you don't want to be looking better than the artist. I've seen that happen on occasion. So anyway, what you need to do is just, check out the image, learn about them. Most likely there's not going to be a chance for you to hang out and talk with them, but if that happens, you should be able to just say, are you looking forward to playing in Israel? Or, what was it like to open for Metallica or something like that? So you should know about the artist, and it will help you from doing embarrassing things like saying, hey, man, when is your album going to drop? And it's already been out for 4 months. So, research the artist, see what they're into, and then go and always arrive early. That's another thing. I can't speak so much for the other cities, but in LA, our traffic is getting to be like New York City. And if somebody drives from Musicians Institute to Center Staging in North Hollywood on a Sunday, it's 20 or 30 minutes. If it's the day that Paul McCartney is at the Hollywood Bowl, it's an hour and 40 minutes. So, always try and arrive early and never be late, because if you do get there late, they might try and accommodate you, but there's less songs and they're angry, and, you just start out badly. So what some professional musicians do is they go to the area and they just hang out at a Starbucks, or they go to the audition early and network. I've had, over many, many years, I've had 3 couples get married that met in the lobby of the auditions, and one of those couples is actually divorced now. But bands have come together. There was a band on Capitol that met in the lobby at Musicians Institute, and it's just a good networking place. So don't be late, and when you walk in the room, be very positive. And it's, some musicians are almost too professional, and they think, if they complain or they like, hey, what's with my monitor, and it'd be nice if I could hear up here, and stuff like that. So be very positive. You're giving a snapshot to the people that could hire you, and they have to try and judge you on that 5 or 10 minutes that you're in the room. So if you're complaining, then it's not a good thing. What you should do is, no matter what's going on around you, is just be smiling and positive. I have videos, that I've made at auditions where people are stepping over people that are passed out, and intimate stuff going on the floor, and some Courtney Love. Anyway, that's another live stream. But so just be very positive. Go in there, play the stuff just as it is, and then, try and make contact with the people that are hiring you, eye contact, who are not always people in the audience. Don't play in between songs. Don't tune up loudly. Don't try and, drummers are the most guilty of this, and I can make fun of them because I'm a drummer, but they tend to sit down at the drums the minute they walk in, and they start, just wailing away on all their chops under the guise of like, let me see how these tones are on these drums. But it happens to be like right in the middle of somebody negotiating a deal for Lady Gaga or something. So, just go in, set up all your stuff. And a lot of musicians have checklists, just like when they travel. And, things like batteries, power cables, things like that. So set up quickly, and then just wait until it's time, play the material, know the other stuff, and if at all possible, offer to do something that they didn't ask you to do. Tell them that you learned a third song, or tell them that you learned the background vocals. One major band, the guy came in and he had been in my class, and I told him, look at this site and see, and he knew that this band was a big Who fan, and so he started playing Teenage Wasteland while he was warming up, and they were like, whoa, you know that song? Oh, I'm a big Who fan. I know that he had just, got the record that week. So anyway, they asked me if we could stop doing the auditions, and they said they're all in there jamming on Teenage Wasteland. And so he even smoked a cigarette with them out in the parking lot, and he doesn't smoke. So anyway, he just got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I'll leave the name of the band out. But this year was his year. But he, did above and beyond. He could sing the things. Pete Thorne, a great guitar player that a lot of people are familiar with, came to a Nine Inch Nails audition. He borrowed guitars. He learned other songs. He was in another room rehearsing them when Trent walked by. And so he would, when they'd say, we're going to do March of the Pigs or something, he would say, do you want the audio version from the single, or do you want the live one, or do you want the edit from the radio? And so that's, something I can pass on. And then when you're finished playing, and don't always make contact with the artist. Everyone is different. Sometimes they want you to talk to them, and sometimes they're like, what's your sign and stuff. But a lot of times they get scared, and they don't want you to run up to them with your CD. And so, just kind of follow everybody else. And then you play, you thank the people for letting you be there, and, just walk out. And it's a good idea to linger a little bit, because sometimes the other musician is not there yet and they invite you to come back in. Or especially with touring bands, what they do is they land in LA and they will basically have 1 day or 2 days to have auditions. And so they ask people to wait around, which is so frustrating for me. Can you hang for a minute? So, there's 10 or 15 people out in the hall, but they actually have their callbacks right there, which is why you should never plan on taking your girlfriend out to dinner, at right after one of those, because it's the limo driver syndrome. But anyway, so, kind of linger around, and in case they need you again or they want to call you back. And again, you can network with other musicians, and then make your way out of there after a while, and try, like I said, not to schedule other things, because you just don't know. Sometimes they run right on time. And, speaking of Courtney Love, she holds the record for the latest audition delay. I think hers was running 7 hours late. So she had actually left and gone home and came back, and it was midnight. So, her auditions were a lot of fun, and, they were really memorable for me, but you just don't know when you're going to get to leave there. So anyway, you just if you follow those formulas, if you walk in, you match the image, you know the songs, and they may say to you, we don't want you to play it like the record because that's why we're getting rid of that drummer. And you'll have a much easier time of creating new parts if you know what the old parts were. So, just you can say to them, hey, is there anything you want to tell me? Do you want it the same way? And you can talk to them a little bit. But that's basically the formula that works, is to do those things in that order, and you'll have a much better chance of getting the work than somebody that's just in there kind of, taking a shot at it.
That's awesome. That's great advice. And yeah, I definitely, like, if you research about the opportunity that you're going for, it does let you so much leeway into like mixing things together and creating that like sort of the aha moment in your consumer, which is the band that's trying to hire you. So yeah, that's such a great advice. No replacement for research.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just wanted to kind of like, we're about getting close to the time on the hour, just cognizant of your time here. And I wanted to also like give out a shout out. I heard you mention Rich. So Rich actually kind of recommended that we talk to you, and he was on here like a few sessions ago, and great guy, very helpful, and just wanted to tell everyone here that you can also go check out Rich Ezra and all the resources that he has for musicians. And also, I think he's coming up with some interview series and stuff, which is so, it's always a great resource, very helpful, and like very generally humble and nice guy. So just wanted to give a shout out to Rich as well. And thank you, Barry. Like, that was a lot of information and great information. So thank you. I'm sure everybody in the audience appreciates it, and I appreciate your time. And
Yeah. Thank you to all my homies that supported. I appreciate it.
Yeah, and hopefully we'll have you back on. There's so many little points where we thought it could become an entirely different subject on an entirely different live stream. So hopefully we'll come back and close those loops more than once, I guess. So
okay.
That'll be great. Cool.
All right. Well, thanks for the invite. And anybody wants to reach out, you know how to do it. So
yeah, and we will also send out your details forward.
Let me give you my email if anybody wants to contact me with email. Is just one long word, barrysquiremusic@gmail.com. So feel free to write barrysquiremusic@gmail.com, one long word. Okay.
Cool. Thank you. We just mentioned that on the